I'm always delighted to be with Saul News. This has been such a leader in the conservative movement and the Republican Party.
Welcome to the Saul's Newsstand News Rewind for July 1st, 2022. An op-ed by Molly Hemingway states, yes, Biden is hiding his plan to rig the 2022 midterm elections. When President Biden ordered all 600 federal agencies to, quote, expand citizens' opportunities to register to vote and to obtain information about and participate in the electoral process, end quote, on March 7, 2021, Republican politicians, constitutional scholars, and election integrity specialists began to worry about exactly what was up his sleeve. They had good reason. The 2022 election had suffered from widespread and coordinated efforts by Democrat activists and donors to run get-out-the-vote operations from inside state and local government election offices, predominantly in the Democrat-leaning areas of swing states. Independent researchers have shown the effect of this takeover of government election offices was extremely partisan and favored Democrats overwhelmingly. There are several major problems with Biden's secret plan, critics say. It's unethical to tie federal benefits to election activity. It's unconstitutional to have the federal government take authority that belongs to the states in which Congress has not granted. And, given that all 50 states have different laws and processes governing election administration, it's a recipe for chaos, confusion, and fraud at a time when election security concerns are particularly fraught. We would encourage you to read the full op-ed by clicking on the link in the description below. Fox News reports, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson sworn in, becoming the first black woman on high court. Jackson was sworn in a few minutes after noon on Thursday, which was when the retirement of her predecessor, Justice Stephen Breyer, became effective. Breyer himself helped lead the ceremony, which took place in the court's West Conference Room. Breyer administered the judicial oath, and Chief Justice John Roberts administered the constitutional oath, both of which are required for all justices. Jackson's husband, Patrick Jackson, and their 2 daughters were in attendance. President Biden nominated Jackson to be Breyer's replacement after the justice declared in January that he intended to retire from active service upon the end of the court's term. Jackson, who previously served on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, is now one of 4 women on the Supreme Court, the most at one time in history. And finally, The Hill reports, Biden calls for filibuster carve-out to protect abortion rights. President Biden on Thursday said the Senate should carve out an exception to the 60-vote filibuster to codify abortion rights after the Supreme Court overturned the precedent set by Roe v. Wade.
The most important thing to be clear about is we have to change, I believe we have to codify Roe v. Wade in the law, and the way to do that is to make sure that Congress votes to do that. And if the filibuster gets in the way, it's like voting rights, it should be, we provide an exception for this, require an exception to the filibuster for this action to deal with the Supreme Court decision.
A change to the filibuster, which requires 60 votes in the Senate for most legislation to pass, would make it possible for abortion rights or broader privacy rights like access to contraception and the right to same-sex marriage could be codified into law with a simple majority. But Biden's previous call for a filibuster exception for voting rights legislation failed to gain traction, and there is unlikely to be enough support for a similar carve-out for abortion. All 50 Democrats would need to support the change, and Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema have expressed concerns about altering the filibuster. And that concludes your Saul's Newsstand News Rewind for July 1st, 2022. For more political news faster, visit saulsnews.com.